Shall I come up?
Come
Come on.
Come to us.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Don't trip over the rug.
Don't trip.
Hello,
Hello. Where do you want me?
Hello.
Just sit there with
Just
the yellow.
sit with the yellow
Sit
cushion.
with the yellow. I'm going to turn this over because I don't know if someone's had chocolate or an accident.
Oh, dear.
Very sorry, guys. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Joyfulness
There we go.
stage. We have the fantastic broadcaster, journalist, writer, influencer,
Ooh, who's that?
fabulous friend, the
Aw.
gorgeous Andrea Mclean here
Hello.
today. So welcome, Andrea.
I know, isn't that terrible? I come on stage and make literally a poo joke.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this
Anything
Joyfulness
for you.
stage.
I'm so good. First of all, can I say I'm so grateful that you guys have come here because it would be really embarrassing if no one came.
Well, I paid them all. No, didn't
Oh,
I?
that's great. And I feel like an airline pilot or an
Yeah.
air traffic controller. This is so exciting.
We can,
Love
yeah.
it.
If we wave our arms too much, we'll,
I know, we're gonna
some will
direct
fly
traffic
in.
from here.
And you
Throw.
brought the weather as well. You brought some sunshine.
Yeah,
as
Yes,
well.
thanks,
yes,
Andrew. It's
and
a
you're
little bit-
welcome.
It was a little bit chilly, but now you've definitely brought the sun. You're looking sensational.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very
lovely.
much. It's amazing what a tan can do.
So so there's so much. Your career has been so beautiful, so varied, and so tell us about like kind of the start of that of your career, your broadcast career, and how that kind of how did Andrea Mclean become Andrea Mclean?
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I was born. So I started my career as a travel journalist because I went backpacking around the world as a young woman and kept really detailed diaries of everything I did. So looking around the room, yep, we're all of the same sort of age. Before the internet, before mobile phones, literally with a Lonely Planet guide and a rucksack. And when I came back, I wrote articles about all the places that I'd been for various magazines and newspapers, just approached them literally with a typewriter and in the post. And I ended up moving to London with literally everything I owned on the backseat of my mum's old Fiesta and slept on floors until I went to journalism school and I eventually got work for a features agency. Fast forward a couple of years, I got promoted to production editor, which is really good, but I'm very creative. I like writing. Writing is my first love, and I hated being production editor because it's like being a manager.
Yeah.
So I was applying for other jobs, and I accidentally applied to be a weather presenter. And what I mean by that is, a journalist's role is to be very good at taking in detailed information. I
Right.
was not very good at taking in detailed information. And I applied for this job, and I thought this was hilarious that I'd accidentally applied. So I thought, well, I'll go along anyway, and I'll write an article, because surely that's interesting. What's it like applying to be a weather presenter? And I got the job. And so I left my staff job for 1 month's work. I took a little bit of a punt on myself, and it was with a company called the Weather Channel. And the Weather Channel are massive in America, and they're opening a branch over here. I was taken to Atlanta with a certain young lady called Carol Kirkwood, you might have heard of. So Carol Kirkwood, Louise Lear, and a lady called Tanya James and I all flew out to Atlanta, and we were trained by the Weather Channel. And then we came back and we worked here in the UK. It was brilliant. I couldn't believe it after years of a proper job.
Yeah.
Because I'd worked in bars, I'd worked in shops. Obviously, I'd worked, for this features agency in Kentish Town, and I would turn up, and we got meteorological training and this kind of thing. And my job was to turn up and present the weather. See how I naturally just do that now. Naturally. Isobars and all the things.
Did you have to do the back
cold
to front?
front.
Did you have to do
All
the
of
back
the
to front
thing.
thing?
It was all
'Cause
back
it's
to
a-
front.
yeah,
Yeah, green screen. Can't see anything, but very good.
I love
But
it.
with the Weather Channel, our broadcasts were 8 minutes long sometimes, and it was brilliant grounding. But I couldn't believe at the end of it, they said, thank you very much, and then you'd have to go home. I was so used to, when you're like running, I was a manager of a clothes shop and all of this, and like even working in bars and stuff. Don't I need to stock up? Don't I need to do the till? Don't I need? They're like, no, you've done your bit. I thought this was brilliant. I'd only one job to do. And then I got made redundant. And I heard through the grapevine there was a job going on GMTV. So GMTV at the time, in 1997, there were only 4 channels. It was huge. It was massive. And so I thought, okay, I'll apply. And I sent my photograph off in a little letter saying I'm very experienced doing the weather and I can fill in, da-da-da. Anyway, I got invited for an interview. This is a huge deal. Oh my gosh, I'm going to meet the editor of GMTV. Oh, so I went along, and it was. No, you might know. You might have bosses that do this. Their seat is up quite high, and then in their office they have quite a low couch, so that they're always looking down on you. So it's this psychological little mind game. And him and his PA, they were like this. And they were just looking at me, and I'm sitting on this very low couch, sort of looking up at that. And you'll know it because we ended up, that's where we met, that low couch in the editor's office.
We
didn't
met
meet
on a low couch?
I was on the low couch.
No, we didn't meet on the low couch. No.
Well, actually,
nothing
we did.
happened on the couch. But they looked at me, and they went, she does, doesn't she? I'm thinking, what? They'd only invited me in for the interview because the secretary had opened his mail and thought I looked like his girlfriend, and they got me in as a laugh because they wanted to see if I looked as much like her in real life. That was telly back then.
What?
And they were like, that's hilarious. Doesn't she look like your girlfriend? And I was very confused because I thought I was there to audition to be the weather person. They said, oh, while you're here, you might as well audition. They saw I could do the job. Again, this is telly. They'd already hired a model to do the job, but they didn't know how to present the weather. So I was hired to train the person who'd actually got the job, which I happily did because I just needed the money. And I trained the person who'd actually got the job. And after about 5 weeks, they rang me and said, this is not working out. It's clearly a lot harder than we thought it was.
And funny that.
The weather
funny
can be a little bit
funny
hard.
that, live television.
Really? I was waiting for this phone call.
And do you know, this is the thing about having no ego and just being like, I just need the money. I'll turn up and do anything.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come in. And they said, can you come in and do the weather for us until we find someone we really want? Okay.
Oh, God.
So ruthless.
This is what it's like. So I turned up and I did the weather, and I worked there. I think I started in the May, and it got to about September, and I did that thing where turn up early, do what they need you to do, be nice to anyone, stay under the radar, don't ruffle any feathers, keep getting paid. Then it got to about
Hopefully they'll not notice
Hopefully
I'm
they
still
don't notice
here.
I'm still here. Yeah, exactly. And that worked for 11 years.
Yay. Love that.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true. I got to about September, and I went to see the editor, the same man who'd looked at me and God, she does, does she? And I said, am I staying or not? Because otherwise I need to apply for other work, because this is great and everything, but I have bills to pay and I need to apply for other work. And can I swear?
Yeah, of course you can. Amongst friends.
Okay, he went, fuck me, I hadn't even noticed you're here. I was like, oh. He said, God. Basically, every housewife in a dressing gown thinks she can do a better job than you because you're very non-threatening. You're pretty, but you're not so pretty that it's off-putting. So yes, you can stay. So I thought, well, that's good.
So
Oh
ruthless.
my God.
That's good.
This is like, this man's making me feel itchy.
Oh no! I
It's
found it
such a
funny.
horrible
I found
thing.
it really funny, and so I said to him, "Look, I'm actually a trained journalist. My skill set is I'm not a news journalist. I'm a features journalist, and my skill set is I really enjoy bringing the best out of people who feel either very nervous or intimidated." Or even they're very, very important and they have something that is quite challenging to talk about. I'm not a punch you in the face to get information out of you. I am a sit down with you and how can I make this experience as good as possible? And he was like, okay, I didn't realize that. So I did a week of weather, a week of on-screen reporting, a week of weather. And what that did was it built the muscle that I already had with writing, but I could do it on air. So I was sent around the country and I would interview, for example, parents I remember their daughter had a heart transplant. She was only about 5.
Oh, lovely.
And so this was really interesting. I went up and there was all these news crews there and they were there from all around the country and they were proper news hacks and they were doing the equivalent of punching the parents in the face to get and I sat very quietly and let it all happen and just thought that's just awful. And then when it was my turn, I went up to them and said, do you need a break? Do you need some time? Let's do this at your pace. And I ended up getting the best interview out of them and the longest interview because I really cared and I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable in the process. And that was kind of a pivot moment for me because I saw what I was capable of. So I stood in for Lorraine, I stood in for Fiona on the sofa, and then I accidentally became a loose woman. Everything in my career has happened by accident. In fact, everything in my personal life, I've been married 3 times.
Yeah. Nick, you weren't an accident, I promise.
He was a blind date that went very well.
So how did you two meet?
Well,
across a crowded studio.
So I got my first sort of big break doing Good Morning Britain, and I was on Lorraine, and I was doing all of the lifestyle stuff. So I would basically say, you know, it's Christmas time, here's how to make your table look fabulous, and I'd have a whole week where I'd be doing lots of great things. Obviously, I was very, very shy and nervous. I was 30, had never really done that kind of broadcasting before, and I saw this angel on the other side of the studio, and you're kind of like going hi, going weather like that, and we just kept on kind of missing each other, and nobody talks to you in television.
No.
You walk in, you do your job, and nobody ever tells you whether you're good or bad or anything. You don't get any feedback. So
you never go on holiday because then you'll just get fired.
Yeah.
And you never
Literally,
find
it's
out
that
till you
bad.
get back.
So you go to somebody and say, "Am I good?" They're like, they just walk past you. They completely ignore you. And the only person that actually would sort of validate my imposter syndrome was you, and say, "Actually, you're really good. Let's go and have a chat." And we suddenly became. I'll never forget it. We were in the. I've just forgotten it. We were in the Charlotte Street Hotel.
Yes.
And we fell in love properly. We'd seen each other for many, many years, nearly like a year or so.
Oh my gosh.
But then we just actually
connected. Properly.
And that's what's so strange about telly, that you literally get a snapshot of each other for 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it. But, we're real
Well,
people.
do you know what we realised? You're nice.
Yes.
You're nice. Let's stick together.
So we ended up going to all these parties and ended up basically being fake husband and wife.
We were,
in OK Magazine every week, coming out somewhere. It was fabulous.
It was.
And how many years later? 20 years later?
More.
Okay.
More.
Okay.
You have literally outlasted 3 husbands.
Well,
no, not apart from the current one.
So I'm kind of the most constant person in your life.
Yeah. 2 husbands. Sorry, Nick. Oh my God, it's going so well.
So that's how we know each
how
other,
we met.
and we're still friends, and
Yeah.
we have the best of time together.
Yeah, and that's why literally when you said thanks for coming, it's like anything for you.
Oh.
Anything.
I love it. And it's like, so I was thinking about, I'm imagining kind of that telly world, and I'm imagining like there's always this like game face on with everybody. Do you ever really kind of, until you go to like a Charlotte Street Hotel and like have a few glasses of wine, do you think you ever really see like the real person like underneath a lot of that in that world?
It depends on the person.
Right.
So I've stayed the same all the way through.
Right.
I'm the same person who ran a clothes shop in Chester.
Yeah.
You know, I treat people the same. But I've always had a pretty good, I'm going to swear again, pretty good like bullshit meter. And I can sort of tell, so sorry if this is going out.
They're over there, they can't
children
hear.
present. Do you know what it is I'm not on daytime TV, so I get overexcited. Like, hooray! I'm like dropping F-bombs all over the place.
That's one of the craziest things about daytime television, especially when you're doing it live, when you can literally say like all the swear words in your head and it never comes out
your mouth.
But as soon as you do something pre-recorded, you swear like
I
all the
know.
time, and you go, can we do another take? We do another take.
Yeah,
It's so weird.
Live telly, I accidentally swore doing the weather once.
What did you say?
I think it was an accident. I think I said it was a shitty day or something.
And it probably was.
Good morning, everyone.
And I just had to
really
kind of style it out.
And you went sleet,
yeah,
a sleety day.
Sleety day. But no, in terms of seeing people, really, telly is just the same as any other job, but with a magnifying glass on it. And what I've always felt is some people say, "Oh, fame changes people," and actually it doesn't. You are the same person, and if you were an idiot before, now you're an idiot magnified. Whereas if you were a lovely person before, you're a lovely person magnified. So fame doesn't change you. Sometimes what it can do is allow the worst side of you to come out because you're not getting told off. Whereas if you're a lovely person, it's the lovely side of you will come out.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
My friendship group was pretty small, but it was contained but powerful. And I think that's the same in every walk of life. You can't be friends with everybody.
Yes,
it's exhausting.
absolutely. And also I think you're right about the kind of most jobs. I think we can all relate to that kind of game face that our boss might be doing horsey rides in the morning with their kids, and they arrive and they're like, "Hello, businessman's here." And so this kind of like we've all seen those game faces throughout life. That
I always thought that people who wore suits are really smart, and I think it came from I was really bad at maths, and my maths teacher always wore a suit, and I always thought people who wear suits are really clever. And it took until I left telly and started working more in the sort of corporate world, and I did media training for a while. Oh my God, they're just as dumb as the rest of us.
Yes.
I had no idea.
It's only the suit that's smart, not the person wearing it.
But it was such a revelation, because I realised, oh no, they're just people who go to work and they just put a uniform on. It's like being at school.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the scales fell from my eyes, and I was like, oh no, people are just people.
People are just people.
Because in telly, it's people are more being themselves, I suppose, in a way, whether it's a magnified version of, whereas they're not talking like that and sounding terribly smart.
The thing about television, though, it's all about it's about insecurity, that you can feel really insecure when you're on screen.
Yeah.
And you just don't know, you can't navigate much, can you? That's what I found it so hard. And I remember when I kind of knew that I wasn't going to go back after 5 years on Lorraine.
Yeah.
And I knew that day, I knew that this was not going to come back again on that show. And that insecurity is like really hard to deal with, because you're actually in front of a live audience smiling away going, oh my God, look at this beautiful new fragrance, but you know behind the scenes that this is going to be the last time you do it. That's a very tough way of working, isn't it?
It is. And so what a lot of people don't realise, so I worked at ITV for 23 years in the end, but what people don't realise is that you don't get given a 23-year long contract.
Right.
My contract was sometimes as short as 3 months. And sometimes it was a year, sometimes it was 2 years, sometimes it was rolling. But at the end of that, either 3 months or year or whatever, you still had that fear or insecurity, or am I going to be brought back again? And particularly, like for example with Loose Women, when it used to have a break, you would end in June, July or whatever it was. You never knew if you were coming back again in September.
So was your like nervous system like constantly on high alert to like, am I gonna?
Yes, because you have bills to pay.
Right.
You know, like everybody else has bills to pay. But I think as time went on and I got older, picking up on what Nick said, it's very hard not to take it personally, because with television, you're being hired because you are giving so much of yourself. It's not like you're an accountant and you're being hired because you're good at maths. We don't really care what you're like. Are you good with numbers? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas with television, you're being hired because you bring a certain energy or whatever. So when that energy gets rejected, it feels like a rejection of self.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was, as I got older, recognizing even though it feels personal, it's not. So having that separation of self, if that makes sense. So I even had moments, this happened to me 3 times, where I was told I wouldn't be coming back. And, we're going to change direction and all the things. And so I just, okay. And I never breathed a word to anybody. I never told my co-workers, apart from obviously people at home. But what that meant was, and this happened 3 times, on what was supposed to be my last day, and nobody else knew, I remember saying to the editor, can I at least say goodbye to the audience? Because I've been part of daytime telly for so long. And they said, oh no, we'd rather you didn't. So I did what was essentially my last day 3 times, whilst looking down the camera and giving like a Paddington stare. Goodbye. I hope you know. Goodbye. This is not like
Read
just
my
goodbye.
mind.
See you
This
tomorrow.
is
This
really
is
goodbye.
everyone. I love you. I hope you can receive this. And then I'd get a call saying, "Oh, we still haven't found anyone to replace you. Will you come back until we find someone we really want?" This is a theme throughout my career. But the thing is, again, it's leaving that ego to one side and going, "Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I need this job. I love the job. I love what I do. Don't get too wrapped up in all of that sort of stuff." And I ended up becoming the longest serving host of the show. And when I did leave, actually, it was then my decision, which was nice.
It's very empowering for you to do that, to say I'm leaving.
Yeah, and I didn't leave with a kind of It wasn't that at all. It was a very different time. I don't know if you can remember when I quit my job. Can you remember what it was like in the pandemic when the second wave came, and it felt like Armageddon, and we couldn't go anywhere. There was so much fear. There was so much fear in the air, and at the time I had started my female personal growth business, I was helping women just really rediscover their sort of emotional strength, because to me, I wanted to be able to provide women with emotional security so that then they would make really good decisions, so that then they could gain financial security. Because to me, and I know I joke about being married a few times, but when you lose financial stability, you are not in a position to make strong emotional decisions. You are literally trapped where you are because of your financial state. So for me, this Girls on Fire was all about how can I give women the self-belief and the personal growth tools so that you can feel really empowered in yourself, so that you do well at work, so that financially you never have to rely on anyone. And I don't mean that as don't rely on a man. No, it's a Venn diagram. Relationships are a Venn diagram, and the powerful bit of you in a union is a bit in the middle, and the two of you meet as equals. So for me, it was, how can I do this for women? But I was doing it during the pandemic and working at Loose. When that second, wave came and the world was engulfed with this fear, I genuinely thought, if this is Armageddon and we're all going to die, I want to die giving my all to something I really believe in. So I quit. I literally jumped into the void. Spoiler, the void did not catch me. I landed on my face. But no, I ended up getting long COVID, and the business ended up failing. But I'm still so glad that I did. I left on my terms. I left to go and do something that I really believed in, still really believe in. And I'm still glad I did it.
Were there people that were... do you think people were kind of... obviously there were people that were like... that sort of, it was a shockwave.
Yes.
But do you think people were kind of like secretly, or not secretly, maybe openly, like in awe and this kind of like... it just must have felt so powerful and empowering to just kind of make a decision that... Because I think sometimes the staying sometimes is the easy thing to do,
Staying is
isn't it?
always easier because there is comfort in our discomfort, because we're used to the feeling, even if it's horrible. And again, joking aside, even being in a bad relationship, you kind of know what you've got, and even if you don't like it very much, so it's kind of easier than going out and starting again. And that's even if it's dating or marriage or long-term relationship. How many partnerships stay together? I've had it, my parents' friend, we've been together for 40 years, and the wife's standing there, and 30 of them have been miserable. Think of one particular friendship group of my parents. And sometimes it's the stronger person who walks away. But in terms of leaving television, were people in awe and all of that? And did I feel powerful? When you're doing things for yourself, you're not really thinking about how it's going to go down with anyone else. I didn't even consider how it was going to look. I just thought about what I was doing. I didn't actually know there were ripples of awe of, what is she doing? Oh, that's so brave. She's walking away. I didn't feel that at all. It was very practical. I finished work on one day. It was the saddest leaving party in the world after 20 odd years of working somewhere, because there was no studio audience. There was a handful of crew. Everyone was social distancing and wearing the visor things, and they had to practically pass me my gifts on a stick. It was hilarious, and there was like 6 people going. It was really sad when I left, and so I loaded things up and put them in my car. I did, however, steal as much as I could from wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Because I love the wardrobe girls, and I sort of said to them, put everything in a bag. Everything that I can carry in a bag, and we will never speak of this. And they said, absolutely. So I left with so many clothes, put it on the back seat of my car and drove home. And then on Monday started again.
Yeah.
And there's no big ta-da. That's it.
It's such a beautiful lesson for life. I think so. Yeah. So much of life feels like it needs a ta-da.
Yes.
It's like, I've done this.
I've done this. I've done this.
Yeah. Right.
And hang on, nobody cares.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it?
So
and actually, it's like
you
it's
yourself.
You
do
have
it
to
for
do it
you.
yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
And I think that also, if you do anything for the ta-da, you will always be disappointed.
Yeah.
So you have to do it because it's something that feels that it's powerful for you, and do it in your own way and in your own voice. And if you do land on your face or it doesn't work, it's fine. Just get back up again. Because in the same way, so I trained as a coach, and I worked the 6 years this Girls on Fire went on for, and although I don't coach now, I do it through my books and this sort of thing. There's so often we hold ourselves back from making bold decisions because we're so scared about what everyone else will think. Nobody cares. And the people who make the most noise about it online and shouting at you, they're just jealous that you've had a go, or because they're too scared to do it, or they're angry at something else. It's very rarely anything to do with you. But don't do it for the applause.
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
it, and you're very lucky if you do get applause. Applause is great, but then you literally get in your car and drive home, and no one's at home going, "That was amazing." I mean, literally.
That'd be nice.
Nick was,
it?
but you
Nick
know.
was. Nick was. No, I'm very lucky. I have a proper Venn diagram of a relationship, which is two equals, and you meet, and the powerful bit is in the middle. But yeah, so often you come home from doing... I mean, I would come home from Blue Swimming and I've interviewed Michael Bublé or Oprah and all these amazing people. And I'd literally get home and the kids would say, "What's for tea?" No one can... So you'd go, right, take your heels off, put on your joggers,
Back to
pour
it.
your glass of wine into your Cath Kidston cup so the kids don't know, and crack on with fish fingers. Yeah, there is no ta-da.
Well, there is a ta-da because you are a Sunday Times bestseller. Twice.
Yeah.
Number one bestseller.
Woo-woo.
With these two books here, which are available to buy.
Yeah.
And Andrew's going to sign them.
And I've just finished my fifth.
I was about
Oh,
to say...
yay.
Okay, I was going to...
So sorry, go ahead.
Andrea. We're still at it, us two. These are brilliant books, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they were really cathartic for you because this is going back to how you were as a journalist right at the beginning.
Yeah.
How fulfilled do you feel when you write these kind of books?
Do you know, it's funny, I was talking to Caroline a second ago, and, you know, and people say to me, "Oh, you're not on telly anymore. What do you do?" And there's still this weird feeling of saying out loud, "I'm a writer." And because I've written, like I said, I've just finished my fifth book, but writing was the reason I moved to London with everything on the back seat of my mum's car. I didn't steal the car, she let me have it. You know, I started writing age 10. It was something I've always wanted to do. But because I got busy doing this other job that I fell into by misreading a job advert, writing was on the side. And whereas now it's my only job, it does still feel weird to say I'm a writer. I get so much joy out of, say, when, you know, and I write, it sounds silly, but say like this, that's my name. That's my name on the I don't really care about the picture, but that's my name. That's my name on there. And if I write an article and it says by Andrea Mclean, I get such a kick out of it. So for me, I love it. It's all the failings and all the messing up and all the life lessons I've had. Plus, I have an amazing access to incredible people and experts and this kind of thing because of my profile and because of my longevity and this sort of thing. Everything I've learned goes into my books. So like this Girls on Fire is about overcoming burnout and things from your past that have really been sort of holding you back, and it's how you can flip that around. You just need to believe it. Spoiler, hate that title. It was supposed to be called Becoming Brave because it's about overcoming fear and taking the leap, leaping into the unknown. But there was already a book called that. And my next book is called Shameless. And it is about how we just need to feel less shame about ourselves and about the decisions that we make, and mainly about the mistakes that we make. Own them. We're going to make mistakes, it's fine. And understanding why there is so much shaming going on in society now.
We don't talk about shame as like, as human beings, we don't talk about shame as like much, do we? And I think that kind of, it's that layer on top of all of the other stuff that just feels like an unnecessary layer that we just allow ourselves to fall into, which is just like,
what a waste of time.
And now that. And it's like, oh my God, now I'm embarrassed about my... And I was like, And it's almost like... And then you feel shame for feeling shame. And then you feel... And like all of a sudden you've got this like big layered cake of shame. And you're like, oh my God. And then you're in like a shame pit.
Spiral.
And right.
And so I think, you know, if for me... It was digging deeper and understanding, right? Where has this come from?
Right.
Where is this feeling of shame come from? And a really easy definition of it is guilt is the feeling that I've done something wrong or I've made a mistake. Shame is the feeling I am something wrong. I am a mistake.
Oh.
And it's that mindset of this thing that I feel is wrong is me. That's where shame comes from. And I think once we have that understanding in our head and we understand to separate it, no, I'm not rubbish. I might have done a rubbish thing, or I might have, this situation might be, but it's not me. And even if you have done something that is wrong, we still have it in our power to either make amends or change our circumstances or apologize or, that sort of thing. Where the idea for the book came from was the joking aside bit of leaving Lou Sumin to run this business, and it failed because I got poorly and everything else. But there's just so much shame attached to doing something. If you're in the public eye, there's this assumption that you just kind of float off and everything is going to be amazing and it'll be a huge success, which, by the way, you will get damned for because it's all right for you. But then also, if it fails, you will be damned for because what are you, useless? So it was this feeling of shame that I tried this thing and it didn't work. And then there was one day I woke up and I felt enraged by that. And I thought, this is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
I tried something and it didn't work. No. So I wrote this pitch for this book, and it was quite rage-fueled. And they quite liked it because it was just this enough. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I wrote a pitch and took it round publishers. And again, this is what people think, oh, you just, because you're famous, you just walk in, and it doesn't work that way. You still have to put a good pitch together and a good synopsis of what is going to happen. And so what the book is about is digging underneath all the layers of shame and how we can shame less, how we can shame other people less than we do, but mainly how we can feel less shame about who we are and what we've become or what we've experienced. And it's all written, the way I like to see it is, you'd never ask directions from someone who's never been where you want to go.
Yeah.
I've been there. So learn from my mistakes, kids.
And when's it out?
It's not out till next year, actually.
Okay.
But have we got like a little, what would you say to somebody who kind of, is there like a quick tip you could share with us today about kind of just allowing us to feel a bit less shame? Like what would be something that we could all do?
The number one tip is own it. Because so often our biggest cause of stress is wishing something was different to what it is. It can't be. It is what it is. So if you're feeling shame because you made a mistake, own it. Yeah, the very start of the book, I started actually with a quote by Salma Hayek, and I came across it on Instagram. God, I love that woman. She's so fiery. And I won't shout because it will echo. But basically, she's saying in an interview, if you make a mistake, own it. Yeah, I did. You did that thing. Yeah, I did. I messed up. And what?
Yeah.
And then what? Own it. Own your own mistakes. You can't have mine. And it was that, wow, that's incredible. You have your own mistakes. You can't have mine. And I think so often shaming other people comes from, look at what you did. Look at what you did. And actually all you're doing is projecting because you don't want to look at yourself. And it's that pushing back of, no, you have your mistakes. This is mine. Take your own. There's so much power in that because then you're not letting it in. And I know it's easier said than done, but I think that whole idea of, no, this is my mistake, not yours. If we can just keep going back to that, it's a quick way of triggering in your head. No, this is mine, not yours.
I love it.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
it's also acknowledging that it's like you're talking about your mistake, but it's also saying like, dude, we're not all infallible as human beings. So like you own yours, I'll own mine, and we'll all get on with it. Which is beautiful. It's kind of like an acknowledgement of come at me when you're perfect.
Yeah.
Like come at me when you haven't made a mistake in your life.
And we've all made mistakes.
Right.
And that's actually part of it. We're a blended family. We've got 4 kids. They're all young adults. And I think that they are very lucky to be growing up in the generation that they are now. That yes, it has its challenges of online shaming and everything else, but they have parents who actually say to them, when we sit around the dinner table and this sort of thing, and they talk about something that's happened. Okay, so that happened. What was the learning? Well, I won't do that again. Exactly. And how lucky are you? You found that out so young. Brilliant. You won't do that again. Let's move on.
Yeah.
There's no point harping on about it or carrying it everywhere, because then how heavy are you going to be by your 30s and 40s and 50s?
Yeah, the load.
Put the bag down.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we could listen to you forever.
I know.
Andrea, thank you so much. But I'm
Not at
sure
all.
there's lots of questions from the audience as well.
Sure,
So we open
I'll
up to you
answer
guys.
anything.
Anybody got any questions?
Honestly, I'll answer
answer
gossip,
anything.
anything.
Gossip.
Yeah.
Here we
Yes,
are.
Rob, there's one just over there.
Pardon?
Where can we find your books, please?
Oh, we've got
We're
two
gonna,
We've
here.
got them here. They're gonna be-
We're going to be selling them after. Andrea's going to be signing them for you after.
And the rest are
There
on
you go.
Amazon. The rest are on Amazon.
Anyone else?
Any
Here we are.
yes,
There's
it's a
two.
couple down the front here.
Oh, right,
Hang on a
sorry.
sec. We're just going to wait for it. Go on.
So I sort of thought it was interesting when you were talking about taking that leap. And, you know, when you look at yourself and other people around you who take those leaps and take on risk, essentially, I think mental health and resilience is really important when you make those leaps.
Yeah.
Did you learn about your own mental health when you took that leap? And, you know, is it something you think people should think about when they do those things?
That's a really good question. I think I accept that I am a bit of an anomaly in that I've always taken leaps. And not everyone is like that. Because I've always thought, why not? And, you know, I remember years ago, we were walking down Oxford Street, and my dad's a very gruff Scottish man, and he said, Andrea, look at all these millions of people. How did you get on the telly? And it's very flattering.
Supportive father.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
And I said, because I always thought it's got to be someone. Why not me? And I think it's that mental resilience, because so often we think, oh, but it's never going to be me. Why not? It might be. And then when you take that leap and it's not, okay. And I think in terms of mental health and resilience, I think if we can make any big decision, whether that leap is, and again, it could be changing a job, leaving a relationship, deciding to reframe your own health because you're looking at your own longevity, is understanding, right, at what place am I, where is my starting point? Where am I coming at this from? What are the pros and cons of it? Always look at the pros and cons, because even though there may be massive pros to whatever it is that you're trying to leap towards, you cannot take everyone with you, and you cannot take everything with you. And sometimes you'll have to leave people behind. And I think if you accept that, you know, some of the things you might leave behind, for example, if you're changing career or what have you, might be financial. So yes, you're entering this brave new world, but actually now I don't have the same lifestyle that I had before. Am I prepared to take that on? And I think that when you weigh everything up in terms of, you know, my husband Nick, he's a coach, and he coaches people all the time in terms of the emotional cost that a decision will make. Am I prepared to pay that price? In terms of whether it is, I'm going to leave. Some people will not come on this journey with me, and I'm all right with that. I'm going to make this decision. I might not be able to go on nice holidays for a while. I might have to sell my house and downscale. I'm all right with that. That in itself has a huge part to play with your mental health, because then A, nothing is a surprise, and B, you're making it from a place of peace because you're understanding what the fallout might be, good and bad. So often we have a kind of Pollyanna, this Hollywood idea of I'm going to make this leap of faith, and then there's going to be this kind of golden lit montage of me working really hard with a pencil tucked behind my ear and a messy bun, and I'm going to do this, and then all of a sudden I'll be moving into my premises, and then I'll be winning awards and have this amazing business. And life is really not like that. So I think understanding what will happen when I make this change really helps your mental resilience, because then you know what you're dealing with.
Definitely. Oh.
When you left your job in broadcasting, was it naked quitting? Did you have another job, or you just had to spend some time without not working?
I was working on my own business. I left it to work on my own business.
Okay, but in between the time, you had to adjust some time before you started working your own business.
I was working my own business at the same parallel. So it had been going for a few years, and then I left to just do that. So
that was the package, as you said, the pros and cons you had to wage, you know,
Yes.
pluses and minuses, and make decisions
Yes.
to go with your own business.
And what's interesting is I did do that, and I made the pros and cons, and I didn't factor in illness, because none of us can see that coming. So I'm a hard worker. I literally ran a marathon at a sprint pace. I was keeping going. I didn't factor in what happens if I can't work. Because, I mean, how many of us here, you think things will keep going at the level that you are now, and if you suddenly financially turn the tap off, how many months do you have?
Right.
Not many. And it costs you money to stand still. Because we think, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just cut back on expenses. No, you have your mortgage, your council tax, your bills, your kids. That still all needs to be paid for. So, yeah, I didn't factor that in. I cried a lot. No, what did I do? I adjusted. We did the best we could. We downsized as much as we possibly could. We reframed. I had to rest a lot. And then I thought, right, what am I good at and what can I sell? Because that's really all we do is we sell ourselves through our work. And I then shifted and I became a freelance media coach. Because I thought, right, what am I good at and what do people need from me? I'm really good at presenting and I can help other people do that. And what that meant was there's not the same overheads as having 12 people on your staff and that sort of thing. And so that was what I did.
It's more an observation which I'll endeavour to make into a question, but you mentioned on more one occasion in your jobs they continue because they haven't found someone that they actually wanted yet. Now that would have crippled a lot of people and given them imposter syndrome, and I think we've mentioned resilience, and I hope that you recognise how incredible it is that you kept going.
Yeah.
And did you continue with gratitude for the opportunity, or where did that resilience come from?
I think for me, it's don't take it so personally. Do I love what I'm doing? Yes. Oh, I love what I'm doing so much. And so this is a great opportunity. So keep doing it while I can. And then one day it'll all get whipped away from me. And that will be awful. But until that moment, keep doing it and keep loving it. So I turned up every day loving it. And obviously I didn't want it to end. But one day it will. And I think I didn't even realize that was resilience. That was just how I saw it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some days I went home and I raged and cried about it because it seemed really unfair. And then you have to kind of wipe the tears away and go, okay, well, that's that. Now what? And go back. Because you can't just lay on the floor forever. Because how do you pay your rent? So, yeah, I didn't even know I was being resilient. But I think it's that. You turn up every day and love it as much as you can. And I think if we can take that attitude into everything, whether it's relationships or parenting or, you know, how often do we just assume that everything will carry on as it is? And it won't. And I think that's when we start to take things for granted as well, is when we just assume. I hope that makes sense.
So you started out obviously travelling and journaling.
Yes.
Will you go back to travelling? Will you present a travel show anytime soon?
Oh gosh, I would have loved that. I think.
Yeah, you love travel.
Oh, I think I don't think for telly. You know, yes. In a short answer, yes, I would love to go back to traveling, but it would be writing about it and blogging, I think, again, which is coming full circle. Because I think now the world has changed so much that you would do it on socials or for an online platform or something like that. But there's a freedom to doing things your own way that there isn't with a television crew. And I did do all that. I traveled the world with a TV crew when I worked for JMTV. I was so lucky. I did live broadcasts from Sydney, Australia. I went all around the world. But actually now, I'm older. My kids are older. Nick and we're probably going to just head on off and into the sunset and do our own bit of traveling. But actually it'll be on my terms now. Yeah, I mean, I'm 56 this year. And I genuinely feel like, gosh, there's so much opportunity still. I don't have the energy that I did, so I'll do it a bit slower. But I'll still do it. What have I got to lose? You know, there's a bit of a Debbie Downer thing to say, but I nearly died in January, and not a lot of people know this. I got very poorly, And I was hospitalized with severe pneumonia, sepsis, and something called acute kidney injury, which is where your kidneys start to pack up. And I was very ill. And there's nothing quite like that to kind of reframe and think, well, that nearly happened, but it didn't. What do I really want to do? So we are downsizing again and just simplifying our life and just really focusing on, right, what matters to us? I genuinely don't care what other people think of it. I don't care about, that lady off the telly doesn't have the biggest house. Why would I care what you think about what size my house is? What if I genuinely don't. And I think if more of us, again, can just let go of keeping up with the Joneses or whatever and just do what you want to do, goes back to the ta-da. The people who aren't there for you when things are bad really have no entitlement to be there for you when things are good. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's an Andrea Mclean quote, not a Salma Hayek one. I'm going to give you a massive round of applause. This is so inspiring. It's amazing. Thank you for being so honest as well. And I think, you've brought a lot of joy to this stage today, and we really appreciate it.
Well, talking about death and losing jobs and things.
Andrea's going to be over there signing some of her books. And just, give her a huge round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I mean, who doesn't love just sitting talking about themselves? Thank you.
Thank you.